Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy. Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm not messing around this week. Just like last week, I gotta go fast because I'm moving tomorrow. For those who don't know, I'm moving. And so all this setup that you're looking at, all the stuff back there, all that, that's all getting taken care of in the next, like, 5 hours. So I need to take this all apart. So not only am I gonna rush it, I'm doing this all in one take. So there's going to be no editing whatsoever, super low budget. So let's thank the Patreon sponsors and get to the questions on the forums. So as we say every week, thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Now this week, I'm not going to be able to show the images because I'm not editing this like post show. So thank you to our patrons of like Khuja, Cross from Jenova, and Kurenai. You guys always know that I'm grateful. You know, it's not a mystery regardless of the image on the screen. So thank you to those two who have gone above and beyond to support the stream and the YouTube channel over the past, however long they've been patrons of light at this point. And then we have the very long list of other sponsors. We have Standard, Elite, and Premium. We have our Standard sponsors. We have Kevin, Wabatalia, Alma Elma, Dark Lumina from Jenova, Marianne, Ramil Kaming, Sabo Empire, Mizra, Red Wings of the Baron FC from Zalera, Cyrus, Oreo, and Shiva, Syd Hellwind of Gilgamesh, Afro Ninja from Malboro, Cheesecake from Leviathan, That Lame Weeb, Ashen, Emiya of Cerberus, Fafarian, Rendil, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. We have our Elite sponsors, Emma, Nyrek of Clan Vizsla, Kristen Ozuki, Crazed Demeter from Midgard, Rynoet from Cactar, Carol, Ray, Senchi, Shadowlink on Tomberry, Dom, Asuka Rick from Jenova, Limilla Nelhah, Midgar, Summer, Saren, the Fennel family, Janhyua Yotsuyu, Kifkin the Great Eagles on Exodus, Cat Ayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rylanator Westaus The Purple Warrior, Hedrick Red Seal on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goisha Valfern of Siren, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Saren from Zodiark. Finally, we have our premium sponsors. We have Vapatiyama of Diablo, Shadow Ari of Brynhildr, Zeravire of Coral, Alchemy, Shinka, Casual Heroes FC on Migr, Tarma Tatachaka on Hyperion, Kane Ozuki from Jenova, Ustar on Coral, Sathal, Serafrost from Behemoth, Holy Tabasco, Crass 015, Serenity FC on Ultras, Cat Kazuma, Ignis Farragon from Excalibur, Flesher of Fanfrit, Not Quarters from Excalibur, Crovus Moonscar, Private Mikey, Nari Kirsami, Rudy Rudiger, Kel Hackman, Raw Jr., and Fantastic Jones. Thanks. We got through those. Now we have to start with the Q&A right away. So thank you to all of you. Let's get started. I think I have this on the first question. Yes, I do. So now that we're done rap-godding our way through that, question number 1. Hiya, Happy. I may have missed it in all the announcements that have come out. We got ponies, birds, doggos. So what's your speculation on the Shadowbringers trial mount? I don't think I could have ever guessed what those mounts would have been the first time around. I would have never guessed, hey, we're going to get horses from this. We're going to get doggos from this. Dogs actually were maybe the closest because a lot of people were asking for something QB related when it came to the final mount. So dogs kind of made a lot of sense to me. But other than that, I don't think I could really guess. Turtles. I don't know. Primal turtles. There you go. That's going to be my next, proper guess for this one. So unfortunately, it was something I was going to do editing wise. I unfortunately have to do it now live. So there's going to be a slight delay between each question, but actually, no, I don't think it's actually going to work. So anyway, whatever. I'll just go through the questions. So question number 2. Hey, Haps, after completing Kingdom Hearts 3 and watching your review on it, I agree. It needs a post-game among many other things. Let me actually scroll up and read this off screen just to make sure there's nothing spoiler related. I was thinking it could benefit from multiplayer. No, I don't think Kingdom Hearts needs multiplayer at all. I think that's the last thing they need to be concerned about. Anyway, so what things do you think they'll add to Kingdom Hearts 3 later on? More cutscenes, critical mode, multiplayer, bring back Coliseum battles. Honestly, I don't have really high hopes for any of the DLCs that they'll do, if they do any at all for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's been such an uncertainty, and they've said that if they do anything DLC related, by the way, there were no spoilers, so I guess I can scroll down. If they do anything DLC related, they said it's not going to be really a final mix. They're just going to do one kind of big DLC. And there's so much uncertainty about that, but I think we all kind of know they're going to do it. I don't know. I was just, at this point, I'm kind of over my disappointment with Kingdom Hearts 3. It was an okay game, but it wasn't worth waiting for. That was my big thing with Kingdom Hearts 3. So I don't know. If they do anything, I'll take it. Something more difficult, more post-game, anything at all. But until then, I'm just kind of not holding my breath. And next time I get a Kingdom Hearts itch, I'll play Kingdom Hearts 2 instead, which, after Final Mix was, kind of the final mixes are all superior, obviously. But for Kingdom Hearts 2 in particular, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is just so much content that anytime I have an itch, that's the game I'm going to go back to. Anyway, question number 3. Laleho, Mrhappy. So I'm a WoW refugee that tried to come over to 14 when it launched, but hated the fate grind and lower than 40s. Quit until recently. The game seems to have more content like that won't be a problem this time around, but I wanted to ask a more historical question. Why did they drop multi-classing? It was such an interesting and innovative concept, and 90% of why I came here instead of another MMO. Really tempted to go back to 11 just to get that experience. I played 11 until WoW came out. I understand it feels like a chore to some, but so do trade skills and tons of other stuff. We're going to argue 90% of the game is chores and busy work. Well, it's not really about chores and busy work. It's that it kind of was pointless. It wasn't, we didn't really have multi-classing. That's not how the game worked. It was, there were skills that you mandatory needed from other classes to be considered an acceptable player in max level content. At that point, it might as well just be built into the job instead of making you level something to 24 or 34 or anything like that. It just doesn't add anything gameplay wise. You weren't interested in those classes in the first place, making you play them just so you can have that ability that every player expects you to have no matter what. It's not, it doesn't in any way enable customization. It doesn't enable builds in any way. It's a static gameplay experience that everyone has to do that really serves no purpose. So that's really the big reason why it went away. It's nothing like Final Fantasy XI's sub-jobs, which was probably the first thing. And it's honestly just a relic of 1.0 that it's a good thing they let go of because it just didn't add anything to the game, really. So I'm glad they got rid of it. And honestly, I want them to get rid of classes altogether. That comes with a lot of technical issues, some lore-related issues. So it's not something that I'm banking on them doing as much as they said they would like to do it at some point too. So I digress. That's kind of just on my personal wish list of things that they could just do away with if they could get over the technical and lore-related speed bumps that come with it. Also, is Final Fantasy XI still alive? Is it worth it, in your opinion, to play 11 instead of 14 as a new player? If you played 11 before, it has nothing. Honestly, it's nothing like that anymore. I like 11 now more than I did back then. Back then, I played it as an online social game where I got to stare at bosses and cast one spell every 45 fucking seconds. So whatever, it didn't really matter. Nowadays, it's a lot more open and free. You can kind of approach the game in any way that you want, whether it be solo or with other players. And there's a good mix of content for both. So 11, I'd say if you have a history with it, it's at least worth to go and play Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, which is an excellent story. And maybe catch up on Seekers, which in my opinion is superior to the Chains of Prometheus story. It definitely, you can see the lack of budget a little bit with Seekers, especially when it comes to certain cutscenes. And some of the maps are infuriating, but Seekers altogether for me, it pretty much goes Rhapsody, Seekers, Chains of Prometheus story-wise for the top three for me on that one. So at the very least, to play through it again to get through the story. After that, actually sticking around for Endgame, bit of an ordeal. But that's a topic for another time because that topic can get pretty lengthy. Question number 4. Hey there, Happy. How you doing? Congrats on the clear for their Baldesion Arsenal. I had so much fun with the Baldesion Arsenal, and I'm glad to have beaten it before I moved, too. 2 questions for this week. One being bonus if you have time. How would you feel if they brought something like a true relic weapon, like mythic weapons possibly, akin to Final Fantasy XI? Hell no! Something that took time to complete but was very rewarding for those who completed it. Basically, something you could continually work on and upgrade as more content came out instead of keeping it just to one expansion. You could incorporate most of the I mean, you're literally just asking for what we have now, except I can keep upgrading that exact same weapon. See, I actually wouldn't mind if you could take your Zodiac weapon, right? And let's say you like the Zodiac weapon, you like the model, it's the weapon you want to use, but you want to upgrade it to be the most recent item level. I would be okay with that. If you literally if they just incorporated the Zodiac weapons into the Anima weapon quest line, not like, you know, where you gave up your Zodiac weapon to like continue to like skip the first step, but like literally just keep the exact same model and just did all the steps the Anima weapon, but now your Zodiac weapon is the same item level as the Anima weapons. And then Zodiac Anima, the problem being, of course, now you're compounding the amount of weapons you have to do every expansion. But that's about it for me, because I would never want Final Fantasy XI style relic weapons in Final Fantasy XIV, not to the same degree at which you had to go through to do them. Stuff like the like if you think 75 Alexandrites is bad, man, you don't want to look up Final Fantasy XI's relic and mythic and Empyrean weapons. The Aeonic is whatever. Oh, and you really don't want to look up Ergon weapons. That would not go over well. So that's how I feel. I would be okay if they like took this Zodiac and Anima weapons and made it so you could upgrade them with like Eureka crystals to be current eye level. And then if they take those weapons, you can upgrade them just so if you really like the looks, you can keep upgrading it. You feel good about your first time completion, but you're still working on improving the same weapon. but not to the degree of Final Fantasy XI's Relic and Mythic and Empyreans and stuff like that. Bonus question if you have time. With Shadowbringers coming out in a few months and seeing Eureka with the content of Stormblood, a bit of nostalgia trips for 11 fans, do you think they're done with future content inspired or Final Fantasy XI themed? No, we know they're working on more exploration content. I think they might separate it from Final Fantasy XI inspired or themed, but still keep kind of the more punishing aspects present. We really don't know what their plans are. All we know is they are absolutely working on another exploration style content. Anything beyond that, we don't know anything about. There's a lot of things, and I plan on doing eventually a video after I move, kind of my collective thoughts on exploration content and what's proven to work, what's proven to not work, and where they could kind of set a base and actually make something that, while it could still kind of be the way it is now, is also a completely different experience from what we had looking back at Onimos and Pagos. Those are the kind of experiences I really don't want to replicate, or those two zones. But Pyros and to some degree Hydados, I would much prefer to replicate what they've done in those areas versus the very old ones. Especially, I don't want them. I know they've mentioned maybe freshening up Diadem. No. No, 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 no. Hell, no, no, no. No, it's not even about that they couldn't fix it. It was horrible. I just don't want to go back there a third time. I don't even care. It just the name is tainted so much at this point that it's just not worth saying, hey, don't you want to go back to that same place for the third fucking time? No, I don't. I really don't. So, yeah, that's, now I can tell you how I really feel. Anyway, moving on. Question number 5. Good afternoon, Mr. Happy. Hope all is well. Hope all is well with you too. Bill Lewis, aka Night Hockey. Oh, I see you're copying me now. Why you gotta copy me? Not a first time question, but here's a bonus: a plate of Howlin' Wings. I don't want more Howlin' Wings. I don't want that. That hurt. That hurt real bad. First of all, as always, I want to thank you for your dedication to the 14 community and content, especially for the 14 content that you produced 4 years ago. 14 was my first MMO. I didn't know what I was doing. I went to YouTube, guys. Your name was the first that came up. I subscribed and have enjoyed your content ever since. Thank you for the long-term support. My question is below and is regards to the weapon for 8-man raids. I'll use the Omega raid because it's my first step in. Question: in every raid tier, you have to grind and obtain a weapon. Why does the Screenix allow you to absorb the previous? I mean, this again kind of goes back into literally what I was just saying about the relic weapon. You know, the idea of continuing it through. Like, what if you could literally take your Alphascape weapon, which you preferred, and upgrade it? The main reason they don't do this thing that we're describing right now is because you could finish your entire Anima weapon. You could finish your entire Omega, Sigma, you know, your Sigmascape, your Alphascape, your Deltascape weapon, and then you just glam it. And then you just glam it. And you know what? Man, I'm doing all the same shit that I was going to do anyway. And now, oh, look, I'm still wearing the same thing. That's why they don't do it, because it just doesn't make sense to actually power the old weapon up when you could just glam it over everything if you really liked it that much and you're really proud of what you've worked on. Because it wouldn't change the process. You're still going to do the exact same thing. It's just a matter of, most of the time, people are doing those exact same things to obtain a new thing. You know, that's kind of what the direction is. So that's what the glam is all about, as opposed to like upgrading the previous raid tier's weapon when there's a new weapon for you to obtain and you can just glam. So that's how I feel, at the very least, in regards to that. But thanks again. And it was nice meeting you at FanFest. Likewise, and hopefully you'll be there in 2 years. Let's see. Moving on to the next one. Hey, Happy. Hello. I've been a listener for a while, so thanks for all the content I've had to consume on my commute. But now the time has come for me to ask a weird-ass question. Uh-oh. I'm not editing this one, so now I'm scared. I'm a bartender, so I have a first-time bonus of your favorite drink made to absolute perfection. I apologize in advance for the incoming wall of text. That is not a wall of text compared to some of the other text that we have, so don't worry too much. As for that drink, I'll take an old-fashioned. Take an old-fashioned. Your choice of booze. I main Black Mage, and sometimes I'll try to do fights using only ethereal manipulation between the lines. Yeah, I see a lot of Black Mages doing that. Also, the triple cast for movement as well. Now, this was a conscious decision, but I've been working on leveling all jobs to 70, grinding through Heaven on High, and I recently noticed that I add a layer like this to many jobs that I've played subconsciously. For example, on Ninja, I almost compulsively use Assassinate only after Aeolian Edge, so the animation AE hops into the Assassinate drop from above animation. Looks nice, makes me feel good. Another that I caught myself doing is casually running between mobs on Monk. I often jump with the tail end of form shift animation. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who have this. You know, people are creatures of habit. It's kind of like when I'm running around in town, when I'm like talking, but I'm not actually playing the game, I try to stick to the lines. Like I try to like follow the pattern, like the shadows that the sun is casting, or, you know, maybe there's like a pattern on the ground on like the carpet or the stone. Like everyone just kind of has those things that they just like do and they don't even think about. It's very subconscious. And then you catch yourself doing it and you're like, what? Why am I doing this? So on to the question, do you feel like compulsively adding completely unnecessary actions gameplay? Unnecessary actions in gameplay I don't do. More often than not, I'll distract myself from my intended actions by like looking at chat or talking to somebody or doing something that's not directly related to the game. But I don't have something like that precisely where I just have this like really weird thing in combat. All of my little quirks are outside of combat personally, but I know a lot of people who do things like that. There are people who literally jump between positionals. I've seen it. They literally won't just move between positionals. They'll always jump from position to position around a boss whenever they're trying to go from like rear to flank. So some people jump. Yeah, my chat's like, I know I jump whenever I go through zone lines. Everyone has it. It's just for different things in combat. So, or in the game, whether it be in combat or not. We just do them. And honestly, I don't know why, but I do the same thing. So I can feel for you on that one. Just not in combat. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you're having a splendid day. It's splendid till now. After this is done, I have to take apart my desk. That day probably gets a lot less splendid at that point. With New Game Plus being introduced, does this mean that you and Sly will be more prepared for Erasivia? Hell no. Hell no, we ain't gonna be more. You think we gonna play through that shit again? Hell no, we ain't gonna be more prepared for Erasivia. We're on that show to look like idiots and to make Ethos look like he knows everything. That's the whole point. And then I beat Sly by 0.3 points and I'm good. In theory, we'll be able to go back and revisit the story. Should we all expect you and Sly to set new high scores? Hell, what do you think? What is Ethos gonna go re-quiz us on the old stuff after we New Game Plus it? Hell no. No, we're always gonna fuck that up. We're never going to get that shit right the first time. So hopefully you like us looking like idiots, because that's probably not going to change. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Let's see here. Next question. Hey, Haps. Long-time listener. First-time asker. So I have a first-time bonus of a bag that isn't from a large chain fast food restaurant. Oh, give me that nice, juicy bag. Okay. 2 questions, but if you only have time for one, it's all good. 1, I recall you expressing reasonable confidence on a few occasions they'll give Samurai raid utility in 5.0. I was wondering what gave you that impression. I know they gave Monk utility in 4.0. I feel like they only did that because they now wanted Samurai to have the selfish DPS role to play in the fantasy of Legendary Swordsman. I feel more like they enjoy the concept of single selfish DPS per role, just like how Black Mage has continued to be the selfish caster. Was there something you knew about their design philosophy? Well, they literally told us the exact same thing for Monk that they told us for Samurai. And then when Monk, it just wasn't working out, they gave him raid utility. Samurai, listen, a good Samurai does fine. You know, it's kind of always been the case in this game. It doesn't matter what job you really play, as long as you play well, that matters above all else. But I would be lying if I didn't say that people have criticized Samurai for the exact same thing. The big thing about being the selfish DPS is generally the jobs. With Samurai, this actually isn't true. The idea is that only the most skilled players are very prevalent on those jobs, and everyone else who's like playing even remotely subpar is very much offering nothing to their team. Generally, when you are kind of middle of the road, if you have some sort of raid utility, the players who might be equal or higher to your skill level are benefiting from you in a way that they aren't from substandard play. When you're a selfish DPS and you don't put out like top tier DPS, you basically have kind of not fulfilled your own job or class fantasy at that point. And then it becomes a, well, then why play it? Generally, obviously, as long as you're playing well, the people you're playing with are having fun, you guys are winning, you guys are progressing, that's really all that matters. It is. It does not matter any of the shit I just said before that if you're abiding to that sort of principle of gameplay. A lot of people don't. And I think they're going to listen to the people that don't. And even the people who don't really have any right to be judging other people for their gameplay, but they still meme on Samurai and Black Mage. Oh, selfish DPS, no raid utility. Meanwhile, they're doing fucking 3.2k DPS as a goddamn summoner. And you're like, man, I sure hope I just forgot to parse your pet. And you're like, nah, man, my pet is on the parse. Like, how the fuck are you doing 3.2k? How you going to exclude the Samurai from the party? You ain't even doing fucking 4k DPS. A lot of people do that. Stop doing it. Anyway, moving on. I just think that they'll listen to the people who say, you know what, selfish DPS just ain't working. Give them something that isn't slashing, by the way, since I know people make that argument for Samurai. So, yeah, that's why. And that's for question number 2. Yoshib mentioned recently the possibility of balancing 4 tanks to have 2 main tanks and 2 off tanks. I personally don't want to see this, but if we're up to you, which tanks would you like to design for each role? So it's weird because it depends on what they define as main tank and off tank. When we think of main tank and off tank, Paladin is the premier off tank. To the raid community, Paladin is a shit main tank. Their enmity generation isn't great, and their cooldowns don't exactly benefit as much from them being in place. They lose access to 2 of their useful cooldowns, and that of cover and intervention, which people may not think too much about intervention, but that shit's fucking great. And if you don't think so, you ain't ever shared a buster with another tank before. So, but Square Enix might think Paladin as a main tank because they're the shield, the sword and shield, stand behind me, I'll protect you kind of guy. So it's really up to which design, like how they're judging what is main tank, what is off tank. If it's that case, then honestly it'd be Paladin Gunblade or Gunbreaker, now that we have an actual name, for off tank, and then Warrior Dark Knight main tank. But we don't know if that's their design philosophy, so, or what they're changing about the existing jobs. So that's a tough thing to judge. I think it's going to be a good thing for balance overall to have 4 tanks, because right now, when 1 tank is even slightly behind the other 2, it just gets dicked on by everyone. Now, I feel like when you have more tanks, people are kind of less concerned about that point. There's always going to be the top half, but there are a lot more people who are just playing it because they enjoy it. And, that's what got Dark Knight all their world firsts. Everyone's like, oh, Dark Knight shit, you can't play it. It's complete shit. How can you can't play it in endgame? It's so trash. World first, world first, world first, world first. And the guy's like, yeah, I just enjoyed playing it. So fuck all of you. He didn't say that part, but I'm sure he felt it. Every time someone asked why he played Dark Knight. It's like, stop, just fucking play what you're good at, okay? And if you're going for speed kills, then yeah, play whatever the speed kill comp is. But otherwise, stop giving a shit. Just worry about playing well, and you ain't got to worry about anything else. Frustrates me so much when I see people just say, oh, Dark Knight plays, it plays like shit. That's accurate. Dark Knight is complete shit in terms of its gameplay, in terms of its output, in terms of its DPS, in terms of its defensive cool. That's like, you don't know what you're talking about, okay? It's world first, okay? It's world first. If you think the job is hindering your progression, you're wrong. All right, that's just how it is. Anyway, moving on. Moving on to question number 9. Hey, Haps, long-time listener, first-time asker. So I have a first-time bonus of me keeping this question short because you said you don't have much time today. Thanks, man. Since you played the City of NT and still play Opera Omnia, I was wondering if you ever played the best game, namely Duodecim. So true story, I sold my PSP before Duodecim came out because the only game I played on my initial PSP was the original Crisis Core and what was that rhythm game? DJ Max. Those are like the only games I played on my PSP, and I just eventually sold it. So I went to a friend's house, and he still had his PSP, and I played it through him, but I didn't own it. So I've played it, but I haven't played it all the way through. If not, do you ever plan to go back and play it? Maybe even stream? No. Probably never going to go back and stream Duodecim, not unless they put it out on Steam, which, let's be honest, they probably won't. So, no, I'll probably just stick with my Opera Omnia. Thank you, though. And this is the last question, I think, for the week, and it is a girthy one. Hey, man, this might be long, but I missed a few videos. I've been super busy catching up. I'm one that asked about Blue Mage having to be limited to unlimited with a side weapon interchangeable. Okay, spells right. Now catching up with the other video types, I want to ask, well, now that Eureka is done, do you have any advice to go full optimal, to give for optimal full progress over Eureka as of right now? So fortunately, even though you have this wall of text, you also have a Kingdom Hearts 3 spoilers question, which is kind of awkward to do during the single recording that I can't edit. So I might just take the first half here because this is, as you said, a lot of friggin' text. Holy moly. As for that, I do have videos on progressing through Animos and Pagos. Those haven't changed much. Pagos is just a little bit easier than when I made that video, I think. Pyros hasn't changed much except that they have Hydatos now, so you might want to choose to go to Hydatos before you do your light step, which it doesn't really make that big of a difference which order you do. And the NMs give more crystals. So there's not really a whole lot to add for that. I'm feeling that one of the two will be probably New Game Plus, multiple endings. Yeah, there's a lot of text here, and I feel like you went from one question and then just jumped on to the next point. So I think I might just need to cut you off because there's not really a gist of this. It just feels like you're kind of just like writing a bunch of thoughts down and there's like no cohesion to them. So it's kind of hard for me to follow along, especially when I'm kind of on a limited time schedule. So I would highly advise like maybe coming back and like writing the questions in a bit more of a concise manner and kind of not piling on like 6 different topics into like 2 or 3 paragraphs, because it's very jarring to try and keep up with here in regards to stuff from Nier, stuff from Kingdom Hearts, stuff from Legacy 14, stuff from the trailer, stuff from Eureka, something about Blue Mage. Just there's too much going on in this post. So I'm gonna make an executive decision and I'm gonna make that first point that I covered with Eureka the last one, because there's a lot going on there and my brain cannot process it right now. But thank you for writing those questions. Just take them and, you know, concise them up and maybe do them one at a time. But anyway, that's going to be it for Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'm not going to do the Twitch questions this week because it's going to get weird if I have to try to do it all in one take. We've done pretty good with that up to this point. So let's end on a high note. I'm going to hang around with the Twitch chat for a little while longer, but on the YouTube side of things, if you have questions, ask them in the forum thread that's in the description of the video. And on top of that, thank you again to our Patreon sponsors. We actually have been having a lot more demonetization on the channel recently. Just really weird text-based things. Viera reading as Viagra to their whatever, their automated system. And the word dope, using it to describe the way I thought a mount looked, the Ozma mount, that got me flagged. So I've had a lot of really weird situations with the demonetization tool. So Patreon sponsors, you have been very much appreciated, especially in this last week. The next Mondays with Mr. Happy, you see, I will be in a new home because Mel and I are moving. So enjoy that, and hopefully you guys enjoy the new. It's honestly, my office is always going to look similar, so it really won't change much. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video though. So thank you to all of you watching on YouTube. Twitch, I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes, but on the YouTube side, I will see you next time. And until then, take care.